Bibliophiles of the internet, my name is Adri, and today to celebrate my 7th BookTube anniversary, I'm here to share 7 lessons I've learned from being on BookTube. So if you follow me on social media, you may recall that I opened up the floor to all of you when it came to video suggestions for my BookTube anniversary, and there were so many great suggestions, some that I've done before and some that I may save for the future, but this is one that came up across the board several times. I also think of myself as like a BookTube elder of sorts, you know, someone who's been through the trenches, built themselves up over many years, someone who continues to put in the work, and this idea really spoke to me in the sense that I wanted this anniversary content to be about me giving back. A few disclaimers beforehand. Obviously, this should all be taken with a grain of salt. Not all advice is for everyone, and that's okay. And also, I'm not going to be focusing on like the technical how you start your channel kind of stuff, because there's tons of videos out there for that. I am more focused on the bigger picture of BookTube specifically and the broader strokes. So the first thing I've learned from being on BookTube is a mantra of sorts, and that is use what you have and do what you can. I've said it a million times and I'll say it a million times more, but I started my channel using the webcam on my laptop and sitting in front of an open window on the floor. Obviously, the process has become more refined over the years. I've experimented with a lot of different setups and devices, but it's always been important for me not to go above my means and use what I can readily access. What you have is good enough, and that can mean your phone, your laptop, your tablet, whatever, but when I say use what you have, I also mean use what you have on the inside. Exactly who you are is good enough to be on camera and to make content. You need to take the time to figure out who you are as a reader, as a person, what you look for in books, what you care about in books, and use that to guide the kind of content you want to make. And use what you have also means use your voice, use your visibility, use your power. Whether you have 10 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers, you have a platform, so develop it meaningfully and use it as best as you can. And do what you can refers not only to the content you can make or the content you want to make, but also your boundaries and your limitations. BookTube is a largely unpaid hobby that takes up a lot of time and a lot of energy, so try to only take on what you feel you can accomplish. This can range from something as small as the fact that I hate holding up books in my videos for editing purposes, so I don't, to something as big as making space for self-care and mental health and knowing when something else in your life should take precedence. So use what you have, do what you can, and your content will be better for it, I promise. Lesson number 2, there is no one way to be a booktuber. Anyone who tells you differently is deeply insecure, a liar, or both. Content has a habit of finding its audience. Yes, there's different factors to consider like the algorithm, social media, self-promotion, all of which is a self-taught learning curve that comes with time, but I guarantee there is a place for your content. Anyone who says there's a single ideal of what BookTube can or should look like clearly doesn't watch enough BookTube. I have people in my subfeed who do one-take, no-edit videos, people who only make reading vlogs, people who only do live shows, people who only do single review videos, people who post once a month, people who post 5 times a week. There's people who make video essays, people who only review manga or comics, people who post more book hauls than book reviews, and they all have an audience. I am part of that audience. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the do what you can mantra, but whatever content is in your capacity to make is what you should make. People who like whatever it is that you do will find you and will support you. You do not need the eyes of every person in the world to be a good content creator or to be considered a success. You also cannot possibly be everything and do everything. That's why we have this wonderful community made up of so many different people and minds and voices. Our job as content creators is not to fill every void that exists, but to offer what we can and to really put the work into what we do best. There is something special that only you can give, whether it's your perspective, your lived experience, your interest, your personality, and so by definition, even if you're making by the book, staple, straight up and down BookTube content, it is going to be yours and it is going to be different. So don't stress about what this person is doing, what that person is doing. That's why the subscribe button exists, so that people can curate a variety of content in their subfeed. Whatever BookTube content you make is part of that larger conversation by default. Lesson number 3, give credit where credit is due. This is something I'm including not as a cautionary tale or because I unknowingly burned someone in this way. Check the receipts, go back and watch my videos. I always mention and credit people where it's appropriate to do so. I'm including this because it seems like common sense to me, but from what I've seen, it may not be as obvious as it seems. Especially when we're having the how do you start on BookTube conversation, people always wonder how do they start building community, and I'm here to tell you that one way to build community is to respect community and to show that you value someone's content by giving them credit. There's obvious ways to do this. If you do a tag someone created, link the original video or post in the description. If you're inspired by someone's video or format, mention them and share that content. If you mention someone's review or channel in your video, drop that link. Part of being in a community is how we connect with each other, how we engage with each other's content, and sharing that content with other people is not only a built-in organic shout out, but it helps other people and more people make their way to that content. I do this not only in the ways I just mentioned, but if I say I heard about this book from so-and-so, or I heard about this book through a specific video, I always make a point to not only verbally acknowledge that credit, but to give people a way to trace that content. Your teachers were not lying to you when they said cite your sources. To me, this is bare minimum common courtesy, respect, and etiquette. Again, an important part of building community is sharing community and giving your audience a chance to broaden their social network. And also, if you don't do it, which I actually see quite often, you just look like a dick. Lesson number 4, read whatever you want. This is a simple lesson, but it's a favorite of mine, especially because I think people get so caught up in what books they think people want to hear about, which books they think will perform well in terms of content, or even just like FOMO when it comes to new releases. And I want to be very intentional and clear by saying that read what you want is not an endorsement for reading passively, reading whatever comes your way, reading with your blinders on. It is not a license to let yourself off the hook. We need to be intentional and critical by looking at whose books we're reading, what we're reading, why we're reading. Those are very important questions to help shape your content. That should not be an afterthought. Reading whatever you want is an extension of being true to yourself. Frontlist, backlist, genre, non-genre, overrated, underrated, fiction, nonfiction, it truly does not matter, and none of those things are inherently better than the other. As long as it's true to who you are as a reader, that is what you should read. And like I said, reading whatever you want means being deliberate in your reading choices, reflecting on which books speak to you and why, how you can engage that story with your audience. It's not about what you think you should read or review, because your booktube should be a reflection of your authentic reading experience. And I'm here to tell you, it is hard with hyped books, new releases, and the publishing industry recognizing bookish content creators as marketing tools. So I've included this lesson to remind you to quiet those voices as best you can and make meaningful reading choices that are right for you and not for someone else. And at the end of the day, you are the one who has to sit with that story, spend time and energy reading that book, sharing space with that book, talking about that book once you're done with it if you choose to do so. So you might as well enjoy the process. Lesson number 5, focus on building your community, not your follower counts. This is a very complex topic. I'm not going to say a subscriber count doesn't matter, because clearly it does. It's a visual marker that tells the story of your channel, whether you're just starting out or you've been here for years. It's the thing people look at when it comes to partnerships, sponsorships, getting early review copies, so on and so forth and whatnot. So it does matter, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it doesn't, because that's bullshit. And I'm also not going to sit here and act like people who look a certain way, seem a certain way, sound a certain way, talk a certain way, present a certain way, don't gain that following faster, because they do. And to not acknowledge those barriers would also be bullshit. And it's also important because it's a visual, quantifiable checkpoint that reinforces validation both outwardly and inwardly. And I've seen too many amazing channels, especially those run by marginalized creators, drop off because they were not getting that much needed support. So that's my caveat. Subscriber count does matter, and it is unfairly influenced by a lot of different factors, but it should not be the reason for you to join BookTube, the reason why you create, or your driving motivation as you continue to create. That number is going to go up and down no matter who you are or what you do, whether you've been here for 1 year or 10 years. So I'm here to tell you that you cannot hinge your self-worth as a creator on that number when it's only one part of the experience. I say this as someone who has slowly and painstakingly grown their audience over 7 years. I've put out at least one video almost every week for 7 years of my life, and that slow accumulation of subscribers has come in part just from the practice of creating and producing content. My outlook has never been, I want X amount of views, I want X amount of subscribers, because those are just numbers. They cannot sustain me long term. I want to know the people behind the numbers. It's the people around me who love to read as much as I do that continue driving me to create. I create content so that we can have a conversation, so that we can share experiences, whether they're reading experiences or personal experiences, as a community. And showing people that you truly care has a much more lasting impact than how many people have hit subscribe at a glance. And it's a much better use of your time to invest in the people who show up and to really grow those relationships, because we all know that subscriber count tells one story and views or engagement analytics tell a very different story, and you can't do anything about the people who don't watch anyways. I'm not going to lose sleep worrying about how to engage people who don't watch my content. I'm going to create for those who do, and that's what's really key to long-term content creation on this platform. You have to invest in your community and create a different metric for your purpose. Lesson number 6, make content you would want to watch and rewatch. This is huge. If you would not watch the content you're creating, why are you gonna make it? It can be very overwhelming to be a creator in any sector of YouTube because there's so many voices out there going, I hate when people make videos about this, or I wish more people did stuff like this, or I don't appreciate it when people don't include X, Y, and Z in their videos. Everyone has an opinion and everyone has something to say about what they like and what they don't like. If I wasted my time trying to please everybody, I would first of all not be creating in a way that's authentic to myself, and second of all, I would most likely burn out because I'm being pulled in too many different directions. I have personally found that the most effective way to cut through the noise is to hone in on what I like to see in other people's videos, what I value in book reviews, what I wish I knew before going into a book, what I find important about storytelling, and that's how I start the creation process. It can also help to have a clear mission statement or purpose that drives you as you create. What is it that people depend on you for? What are you known for? What do you want to be known for? How do you help potential readers discover new books? Those might be just a few things to think about, but your Northern Star should be that you want to create things that you're proud of, that reflect who you are as a person and what you value as a person, and that are authentic to your experience. And really, if you don't want to go back and watch your own content, why should anybody else watch your content? I'm not saying there won't be videos that are hard to make or that you don't like or that you should be a selfish content creator, but if you want to have lasting power as a creator, you need to make videos that do something for you, that isn't just racking up likes or subscriber counts. There needs to be something about your creation process that gives you purpose and helps you understand your content's value and its place. And finally, lesson number 7, give yourself a long runway because your first try is not going to be perfect. Like many of these lessons, this operates on many different levels and can apply to so many different things. From a macro level, it can apply to actual content creation, where maybe the videos you make at first absolutely flop, but you gotta keep doing it because good content creation comes from good practice. It can be at the micro level in the actual filming process, where you gotta take a run at something more than once before it comes out right, and knowing that there's gonna be a lot of nonsense left on the cutting room floor that no one ever has to see. It can be in terms of finding your aesthetic, finding your review style, finding your brand, finding your setup. You gotta give yourself time to try out new things, to try things that don't work, to refine what you like or what you don't like, and see what works for you specifically. You have to give yourself grace, allow yourself to be embarrassing or unprepared or imperfect. Learn how to self-correct, learn how to listen to yourself, and again, make the kinds of videos that you would want to watch. The discipline of content creation comes from time. It's a muscle you have to develop just like anything else. It's a learning curve, and I guarantee you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make things you don't like, but that is a necessary part of the process. Your style, your voice, whatever content it is that you make can only be refined over time and can only develop if you keep trying things. So don't hold yourself to unrealistic standards of perfection, because that's an easy way to become unhappy with yourself and again, most likely burn out and quit. So give yourself a long runway, realize there's a lot of pavement between you and the sky, and it might take a while to lift off, but if you stay on that path that is uniquely yours, it will happen at some point, and it will look like what it's supposed to look like for you and only you. So those are just 7 things I've learned from being on BookTube for 7 years. It's what's allowed me to stay in the game for this long and what helps ground me as I continue making content going forward, and I hope it either helped you or at least interested you a little bit. In the comments below, feel free to continue the conversation and share something that you've learned either from making BookTube videos or consuming BookTube content. But that's everything I had for this video today. Until next time, educate yourself, be kind to yourself, take care of yourself, and I will catch you on the flip side of the page.